I was reading some history in order to prepare for this sermon in terms of what makes people in wartime to rise up and welcome the stranger into safe harbor. Why people do that, and why people do the contrary too. But in the United States, Quakers freed their own slaves and helped establish the Underground Railroad. In Europe, Oskar Schindler, a Nazi, spent his own fortune to save 1,200 Jews from Auschwitz gas chambers. Roel Wallenberg, a Swedish diplomat, saved more than 100,000 Jews by giving them false passports. Corrie ten Boom and her family in the Dutch underground resistance movement hid Jews in a counterfeit room in their own home. Maeve Gies, an Austrian woman, and her husband helped to hide the young Anne Frank and her family in an Amsterdam attic. Colorado's Governor Ralph Carr defied the spirit of the day after the war, after Pearl Harbor, with all of its fear and ignorance, and he welcomed Japanese Americans to his state. Today we have states and towns that offer safe sanctuary to the stranger, to the alien. Interesting how we can be welcoming to the stranger and to the alien, but interesting how we can not be. She said, we were neighbors before the war. Before that day, I was just the neighbor next door. But after the war, I was not a neighbor anymore. I was an alien. This is the story of a Syrian woman who, together with 4.8 million Syrians, have fled the country because they are aliens in their own land. Following Japan's attack on Pearl Harbor, President Roosevelt signed Executive Order 9066 on February 19, 1942. And he set in motion one of the great tragedies of the 20th century American history. Thousands of Japanese Americans were sent to concentration camps. Neighbor one day, alien the next. Who do you think Jesus would pick for our neighbor? Would it be the person with a different skin color? Would it be the person who gets on our nerves? Would it be the person who brings trouble on themselves? Would it be that one person we try to avoid at all costs because they grate on us? And yes, 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 and yes. Jesus says, love them. Jesus says, serve them. The lawyer in this story had assumed that people have to earn their neighborly status in order for us to love them and serve them. But Jesus makes it clear that we all have the responsibility to be a neighbor to those we encounter, and especially those in great need. The Apostle Paul wrote later in Galatians 6, 9, 10, let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. Therefore, as we have opportunity, let us do good to all people, especially to those who belong to the family of believers. Do you remember the State Farm mission? What is that? Be a good neighbor, right? Be a good neighbor. How can we be a good neighbor? I mean, God expects us not only to care for our neighbor, and many of us do, we care, but to see as a neighbor anyone in need. To see as a neighbor anyone in need. Sometimes, I've told people who sometimes, avert their eyes and avoid making contact with a homeless person because we don't see them. Because they've become a burden, not an opportunity. The least we can do, even if we don't have money or anything, is to look at them in the eye and treat them with dignity. Acknowledge that they are a human being. In many ways, that's the issue here at hand in this story. To see a neighbor, as a neighbor, anyone who is in need. The priest and the Levite, they don't see the man in need as a neighbor, but they see it as a hassle, as an obligation, as a problem. I better avoid it. And so it turns out they actually do something. What they do is that they cross over to the other side of the road. Why? Precisely so they don't have to see this person in need. The Samaritan, however, wherever he may be going or whatever time pressures he may feel, sees this man in need as a person. Samaritan? That despised person? He sees the child of God, this person in the ditch as a child of God, as someone who inherently deserves his time and attention. It is very interesting because the Samaritan was the one. If this guy was a Jew, the Samaritan was in all his right to deny help to this person. But he didn't think about the 100 years of prejudicial hatred. He just helped out a fellow human being in need. And he did it at a very high personal risk and personal cost. I wonder whom we see as a neighbor and whom we overlook. Because in many ways, we are as clan-oriented as those in Jesus' original audience. Most often, we look out first for our immediate and then extended family, and then close friends, and then those who are more like us, or share our values, or share our associations. Unlike the priest and the Levite, we tend to overlook and avoid those who are different from us. And to make things worse, sometimes we justify it. Well, you see, they are the gossip people, and I detest gossip. Well, you see, their skin is darker and mine is lighter. Well, you see, they are from the south and I am from the north. Well, you see, they are Packers and I'm Bears. But what kind of community do we want to be? What kind of community do we want to be? We have heard these days, everything that is going on. We want to be an isolated community. Of course, we need to protect our borders. And this is my personal opinion. From the gospel point of view, yes, we need to be secure. But we have neighbors. We have to be good neighbors. It is interesting that in the crisis of Syria, where 6 million people, over 6 million people have been displaced from the country. I mean, it's It's a humongous amount of people who have no place to go. There is one tiny country like Germany who have opened their doors, its doors, to receive more than 1 million. Of course, when you receive 1 million people, you will have problems. No doubt about it. But with their tiny resources and space, they have allowed this community of people who are suffering to be welcomed. Welcome the stranger in their midst. You know, our communities, our schools, our churches, our Boy Scout troops are increasingly diverse. And we are more likely than ever to run into people who look different at the supermarket, at the train station, wherever we go. And we are more likely to observe different cultural custom than we do. But what happens is that in all this diversity, sometimes lines are drawn and divisions are cast, and aliens we become, alien to one another, as the fall makes us alien to God. And so neighbors become aliens. We miss them in our blind spots. You know, would-be neighbors in need go untouched. Opportunities for deep, profound friendship and reconciliation passes by. At Sunday morning, we have heard, is the most segregated hour in America, because theological aliens sit in churches on opposite sides of the street. Cultural aliens live next door in our neighborhoods. The worker in the cubicle who always eats lunch alone is a neighbor who may be aching for friendship, for relationship. Do you know your neighbors? Do you interact with your neighbors? I mean, it is strange that we live surrounded by people and we feel so lonely because we hardly know the names of the neighbors around us. It used to be that we play outside and we knew the names of everyone. Today it seems that, you know, our next door neighbor we know, or the one on the right and the left, but sometimes it's just that we know the name and who they are. But that's it. How do I recognize my neighbor is in need? How can I be a good neighbor? If we seek to live Jesus' way, the lawyer here faces what we must all confront. That the enemy who loves a person in need is more deservedly and truly neighbor than we who in our nearness and acceptability fail to love. Because living as a neighbor turns out to be the issue, says Jesus. Far more simply than recognizing a neighbor. Living as a neighbor makes us a neighbor. Don't worry about who your neighbor may be. Worry instead whether you are acting as a neighbor. Especially when the likelihood, the strain, even the scandal of being one pushes us far beyond what seems desirable or imaginable. This, Jesus says, will be the benchmark of whether we love God and love our neighbor. Loving our neighbor, loving the alien is a clear calling for the follower of Christ. In Paul's list of marks of the true Christian, in Romans chapter 12, we are told in verse 12 to extend hospitality to the stranger. And what we translate as hospitality here is Paul's use of a Greek word, philoxenia, which is literally the love of aliens. In English, we may often hear the word xenophobia, the fear of aliens, but we rarely hear the word xenophilia, which is an actual English word meaning the love of aliens. Because hospitality, welcoming, is more than tea and crackers. Paul's list of marks of the true Christian opens with the easily recognized, Philadelphia in verse 10. And Paul says, practice brotherly and sisterly love, Philadelphia, which all the more sets up the listener, for the closing of the list, where philoxenia, alien love, in verse 12, leaps off the page. It screams out of me, love the stranger. This is Christian hospitality. This is what a good neighbor does. Love the alien, the stranger. Fail these? Walk by? Then disdain our enemy who loves when we don't? And we exposed just how little interest we have in following Jesus and in doing what Jesus both does and commands. By extension, we also make clear what little interest we have in the reality of eternal life, God's kingdom. Have you heard that adage that says, I love humanity, it's people I can't stand? That sentence captures the dilemma of that which is ordinary enough to actually be invisible to us on most days. But Jesus' vision sees us as we are and as we are not. Love the world, but fail to love as the neighbor we are meant to be on any given day, not least towards the marginalized, the inconvenient, or the unacceptable, and we fail in what matters most. I mean, do you feel the sting of Jesus' implicit rebuke here? Do we understand that the kingdom calls us out of our paltry, self-serving, pharisaical love? Are we willing, really, to confess that we don't want to be the neighbor Jesus wants us to be? Do we understand that this puts life eternal on the line, because it turns out we don't actually want what eternal life is for? And above all, ask yourself this hard question. What kind of community do we want to be? Are we really ready to participate in a community of peculiar, unexplained, and undeserved love? If not, whose neighbor am I? Anyone's? Let us pray. Holy God, in these difficult days, when we put one people over another or against others, when we have fear of the stranger, of the alien, open our eyes to see our neighbor and help us to be good neighbors, lest we pass you by when you are hungry or thirsty or lonely, and so miss a time of sweet fellowship with you. Be with us, O Lord, as we leave this place into the mission field, to meet everyone as our brothers and as our sisters.